What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 238 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about The Mighty. This is a 12-issue miniseries from Dark Horse Comics by Peter Tomasi, Keith Campaign, Chris Samnee, and Peter Snejbjerg. This is about a character called Alpha One, who is this world's first and only superhero, and he has been around since the 1950s, and he has this police force that works with him and kind of sort of works for him. They are called the Omega Section, and we have this one guy named Gabriel Cole, who at the beginning of this book, he becomes the leader of the Omega Section. And then he becomes close friends with Alpha One, who is basically this world's version of Superman. And then he and we find out that there is a lot more going on here than what he initially thought. Because obviously there has to be some kind of conflict and there has to be some kind of story here. It's not just these guys being friends with each other for 12 issues. This book, and I'm going to spoil the crap out of this book because there is no way for me to talk about this without spoiling something that isn't even a reveal until like issue 4 of this miniseries. So I am going to be throwing lots and lots of spoilers out there for The Mighty, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers, go ahead and turn this video off right now. So this book is kind of sort of like the Mark Waid series Irredeemable. I've heard people make comparisons between this and that. I think on iFanboy they kind of compared this to that, except that there is a huge difference. With Irredeemable, it is an ongoing series, or at least a very long-running ongoing series, that begins with your superhero character, the Plutonian, being insane. Like, he's already a crazy guy who is trying to destroy continents when you first get into Irredeemable. Whereas this is also about your Superman character, who is a lot darker and more sinister than what you're thinking when you read issue 1, but it takes about 3 or 4 issues to get to that point. This doesn't start with, hey, what if Superman was a weird, creepy bad guy? That is the premise of this 12-issue miniseries, but this book doesn't start with that. I have no idea how they sold this series when it was first coming out, because, like I said, that's not really a reveal until issue 3 or 4, depending on what clues you're picking up on. There's this one point where Alpha One thinks that Gabriel Cole's wife is hitting on him, and he's kind of receptive to the idea, and she's like, no, I wasn't hitting on you, and you're thinking, that's a little creepy, that's something Superman wouldn't do that, what's going on here? And then an issue later, we see him do something that's really morally questionable, and we're like, oh, okay, so he's a bad guy, gotcha. I don't know how they sold the first 2 issues of this series, though. I would be very interested in going back and looking at solicitations from like 2009 or whenever it was that this series came out, and looking at solicitations for this series, because they must have done a very good job of not telling people the twist, or everyone knew the twist going into it, and it wasn't until issue 3 or 4 that that twist became very public in this series. But I don't really have much more to say about this other than you guys should definitely go pick this up. This is a really good book. I really like the story. I really like the art. And the story and art is divided amongst all these guys. Chris Samnee and Peter Snejbjerg, their styles are very similar. Snejbjerg, I was actually familiar with his work from something else that I'll probably be talking about in a few days, wink wink, but Chris Samnee, I'm mostly familiar with his work on Twitter. I will see his work posted on Twitter quite a bit, and I really love his work, and I love it here. And their work, their styles are very similar, but also they each have their own unique flair on what's going on. But whenever Snejbjerg was no longer capable of doing all of the artwork on the interiors of this book, they went ahead and replaced him with Chris Samnee, and I don't think they could have picked a better artist to replace Snejbjerg, because their styles are so very similar, and also Chris Samnee is just a heck of an artist. I really love the art here. I think that I love it as much as I love the story, and that's saying something because this story is really good. The big twist about a third of the way through the series is that Alpha One is a bad guy, but then they keep throwing twists at you throughout the rest of this book. It's not just that he's a bad guy, he has a plan, and it's not, well, I'm evil and I want to take over the world. There's a whole lot more to it than that, and I won't talk to you about what his plan is, but needless to say, I was pleasantly surprised. By the end of this book, whenever we find out what his plan is, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this guy is definitely really crazy, but at the same time, he is got more going on here than what I thought he would when I first got into this book. Because when I first got this book, I already knew that it was about an evil Superman, kind of like Irredeemable, but I didn't know to what shade they were going to take this character and how he would be very different from the Plutonian in Irredeemable. And and I really like that he is very different from the Plutonian. He's crazy in a very different way, and I like that. I like the reveal here. I like all of the reveals in this book because there are more than just the, hey, this Superman guy is evil. There's a whole lot more to this book than that. I highly recommend The Mighty. I think that you guys should check this out. If you like Superman, if you don't like Superman, check this book out. I think it is highly worth your time. Very much something that I will be returning to and rereading in the very near future. So those are my thoughts on The Mighty. I hope that you guys liked this review, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back tomorrow with a different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.